Hello and welcome to the Adam and Nard Show. On today's episode, my brother and I were going to talk about metrics and how to be healthy. So Adam, tell us about the health metrics, please.
Hey man, how are you doing?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm fine. Now, the reason why we have this episode today is because it's one of the most important episodes in my mind. Health is something that everybody has to look after, right? If you're not healthy, health is like the number one. And everything after that is the zeros that comes after that. Your money, your social relations, everything else. If you have 1 million and you take away put as many zeros as you want, take away the one in the beginning, what happens? What are you left with?
Nothing.
Whether you're a billionaire or you're poor, if you have that one gone, what happens to you?
So it is like the number one thing that you should focus about. It's like
Absolutely.
that's the first thing that you should worry about.
It's essential, man. It's essential. It's crucial. So first, we're going to talk about body composition.
Okay.
And the episode's called Health Metrics. There are ways to measure your health. There are metrics that can measure your health. And I'm also going to talk about technology because I'm a tech guy. You know that, Nard?
Yeah.
We're going to put technology also in this episode. We're going to fuse technology with health together. We're going to talk about fitness trackers that can help you monitor and track your health. And I like to use, for example, the Samsung
And that's
Galaxy.
the reason why you have the watch.
Exactly. And by the way, by no means is this episode some sort of advertising for Samsung.
Oh yeah, we're not endorsing anything. We're just mentioning
any company.
it. Yes.
We're not affiliated with Samsung or Apple or any other company, but it's a good idea to have a fitness tracker with you. Now, I like to think of these things as portable hospitals. In the future, they're almost portable hospitals, but they measure a lot of metrics, health metrics. And I use my watch almost every day to measure and track body composition. As of today, the only fitness tracker out there that I'm aware of is the Galaxy Watch. This is the Watch 4, but there's also the Watch 5, Galaxy Watch 5, that tracks body composition. Now, body composition is a broad topic. There's so many things to track, but the watch can track for you your weight, your body, your fat percentage, your skeletal muscle, your basal metabolic rate, your BMI, and we're going to talk about all of these things in detail today. So
Awesome.
let's start the episode by talking about the most important health metrics that you need to measure in order to find out whether or not you're healthy. And we're also going to talk about the most important diseases that you have to be aware of. So first, let's start with weight.
Okay.
What do you think, Nard? What do you know about weight?
Well, obviously, if you're too thin or like let's say anorexic, that is not good. If you're too obese, that is also not good. So you got to have a balanced weight, and it depends also on the height factor. So the height plus your weight gives you it is equal to your ideal weight that every single person should have.
Yeah. So weight depends on various factors, a multitude of factors.
Exactly.
Your age, your sex, your genetics, your physical activity. All of these things are important, and they determine your weight. Measuring your weight is not an easy job, but you have to understand that maintaining healthy weight is extremely important.
Yes.
However, weight is not the be-all, end-all indicator of health. You can be having a normal, healthy weight, but you're not healthy. So you have to, first of all, at least find out how much you weigh by going on the scale, which is something dreadful. A lot of people hate to do that. You have to go on that scale, find out how much you weigh. That's number one.
Exactly.
But weight alone is not an accurate measure of health.
Of health, yes.
You have to combine that with other factors that we're going to talk about today. So first of all is weight. Then BMI. Let's talk about BMI, which is
body mass index.
Body mass index. And what is the formula now for body mass index?
Okay, so your body mass index is equal to your weight over your height squared.
Exactly. Your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters. We're talking about the metric.
Yes.
Metric
With
system.
the metric system, yes.
That BMI is not exactly an accurate measure of health as well, but it gives an estimation of your health. So if your BMI is anywhere between 18.5 to 24.5, then you are considered...
That's the normal range.
Yeah, that is considered to be the normal range. But remember, the reason why BMI is not exactly an accurate measure is because somebody could be having a normal BMI, but they could be unhealthy as well. They might have a lot of fat.
Exactly.
Or somebody that might have a high BMI, but they're muscular and they're fit. So BMI should be used in combination with other factors, which brings us to the next
To
topic.
the body composition.
Yes, which brings us to body fat percentage. Fat percentage is one of the most important things that you have to measure in your body. And it's not easy to measure fat. We're talking about fat percentage. Now, there are, the rudimentary ways of doing this, which is to bring a tape and measure your waistline. And these things can help, of course. They can give you an indication of of how much fat you have. For example, you should not be above, let's say, in inches, like 40 inches. If you're above 40 inches, you're definitely fat. What is your waist size? Mine is 32.
Mine is 34.
Yeah.
34.
So if you're above 40, for example, you're definitely obese.
Yeah.
But fat is much harder to measure than that. And the only way to measure fat, if you want to do it scientifically and if you want to do it accurately, the way to measure fat is through something called DEXA scans. A DEXA scan measures your body composition, and it's like a big device like this, and you sit in that device and they measure everything. So that is expensive. It costs a lot of money. However, the Galaxy Watch, Samsung claims that this thing measures, the accuracy of the watch is 98%. And it's almost as close, as accurate as a DEXA scan, which is incredible.
Could you please tell our audience what's a DEXA scan? It's the one that is found in the nutrition. When you go to a nutritionist, it's a scale, and you grab two things.
No, that's a different thing. DEXA scans are like they're the gold standard in the industry for body composition.
Okay.
It's like it's a huge device. We'll display a picture of a DEXA scanner. It's a huge device, and it measures your body composition. That's a DEXA scan. Usually they don't go for this test unless the doctor wants to investigate something. Maybe something is wrong with you, some sort of disease, so they want to find out your body composition. So it's not normally taken by healthy people, but it gives you your accurate body composition, your fat percentage, your skeletal muscle, and all the other factors, your water, all of these things that we're going to talk about today. So this watch, for example, Samsung claims to be accurate. Now, I've tested it myself, and I think it's fairly accurate. It is. Some people are complaining that it's not accurate, but let's just say on average, it is accurate.
You know what was surprising the most is that when you mentioned the watch, and then I asked you about the Apple Watch, you told me that Apple doesn't have it.
Yeah, Apple unfortunately still doesn't have body
that was like
composition.
really shocking to me.
It is shocking. Here's the thing, though. I like the smoothness of the Apple operating systems.
Okay.
Like iOS.
Oh, hands down. Yeah,
exactly.
That is true.
But in terms of functionality and features, the Apple Watch does not have body composition, let alone blood pressure. This thing also has blood pressure.
So if we want to have, like, let's say, a small message to convey, we have to say to the audience, Apple, step up your game, please.
Exactly. Apple, it's time for you to put body composition in your watches.
Especially for the money that we spend, dude. Come on, man.
It's,
everything about Apple is expensive. So I was really surprised when you told me about it.
Yeah. He wanted to get an Apple Watch. He thought that he has the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and he wanted to get the Apple Watch to be able to measure body composition, but it does not have body composition.
I'm really Are you sure?
I'm sure. 100%.
Sure. Okay.
Anyway, the point is, there are solutions out there that are inexpensive, like the Samsung Galaxy Watch. There are other fitness trackers out there that track different things. Not body composition, though. I'm not aware of any other fitness tracker that tracks body composition. There are trackers out there like the Garmin or the Fitbit that track different things like VO2 Max or your sleep, your heart rate, these things we're also going to talk about.
These are extremely important.
Of course.
Yeah.
So in order to talk about BMI, you have to understand what is the healthy range, which is 18.5 to 24.5.
To 24, yeah.
If you're above 24.5, between 24.5 to 20 to 30, let's say, you are overweight.
Overweight, yeah.
And between 30 to 40,
considered obese.
Obese, and anything above 40 is extremely obese or very obese. So you want to look at your BMI in combination with your fat percentage. And now let's talk about fat percentage. Now, the interesting thing about the Galaxy Watch is that you also have the app. And on the app, you can read all about body composition and you can find out all the metrics. And the watch calculates for you your ideal let's say weight, your ideal fat percentage, your ideal water, all of these things, it calculates for you depending on your height, your age, your weight, your sex, all of these things, because it's not the same for everybody.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yes.
So for body fat percentage, for example, your body needs fat. The normal range for me, for example, according to the phone, according to the watch, is between 15% to 22.3%, according to my height and my weight and all these things. And it's different between men and women. For women, the fat percentage, the allowed fat percentage is higher than that for men. So that's why I'm saying it's not the same for everybody.
Exactly.
Which is why you should focus on trying to find out how much fat percentage you have in your body. That's a more accurate measurement of your health rather than just BMI alone. BMI and weight alone are not enough, man. You have to combine that with other factors like fat percentage, for example, to get a more accurate estimation of your health. Now, visceral fat is another type of fat, which is deep fat. And that fat is dangerous, by the way, because it's accumulating on your organs. And
the worst thing about it is that it's not visible. You can't see it because it's internal.
Which brings me to the next subject, which is subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous fat is external fat, which looks ugly. It's unsightly, of course, like love handles, for example. The first image of love handles and stuff. Absolutely. But visceral fat is much more dangerous than subcutaneous fat. Visceral fat is what you have to keep an eye on. So you look at your fat percentage. It has to be, for me, for example, has to be anywhere between 15 to 22%. Let's just say this is an average.
Okay.
You also look at your visceral fat. You try to measure your visceral fat. All of these things can be measured with today's technology through something called BIA, bioelectric impedance analysis.
Wow.
Bioelectric impedance analysis means the device, for example, this watch. By the way, I do it like this. So when you go to
What do you mean like you do it like this?
I have a full video,
okay,
and I'm going to leave a description in the video down there so that people can understand how to do this with the Samsung watch.
Okay.
So you go to measure, and then you confirm your weight. For example, my weight today is 75.3, and then you place your middle and ring fingers on the keys like this.
Oh,
and once you place it like this, now it's busy measuring my, I don't know if you can see that, but now it's busy.
Just point it to the camera and let them see it. It's okay.
Yeah. It's now busy measuring it's busy measuring my fat and my body composition in general.
Whew.
There you go.
That's crazy good, man. Awesome.
So these are the results: skeletal muscle, fat.
What's the duration like for it to measure it? Like seconds?
A few seconds.
Wow.
Maybe like 15 seconds or less, something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which brings us to the next subject, Nart, which is fat mass.
Okay.
Fat mass. Now, for me, it says here that the normal range for my height, age, and gender for fat mass is between 10.7 kilograms to 15.9 kilograms. Now, this is different than fat percentage. It's called fat mass.
Okay.
How much fat I have in my body. Now, if you remember, we didn't talk about this in the beginning, but body composition, well, if you're talking about...
It's out of three factors.
Yeah.
Water, fat, and muscles.
Yes. So
Skeletal
when you're talking about body composition, you're looking at water, fat, and skeletal muscle.
Yes.
Skeletal muscle is the muscle that is attached to your bones that you feel when you do a workout, for example. And of course, when you look at your body composition, there are other factors.
It is responsible for the functional movements and stuff when you work out.
Yeah, but
for the skeletal muscle.
Mostly, your body composition is made up of water, fat, and muscle. There are other components too. For example, bones, they make up 4% of your body. You have your organs, you have all of these things. But the majority of your body composition is mainly water, fat, and muscles.
These three important factors.
Yes. So we talked about weight, we talked about fat percentage, we talked about fat mass, we talked about BMI. These are all super important health metrics, guys, that you need to measure in order to find out whether or not you're healthy. We didn't even talk about diseases yet. We're going to come to that. We're going to talk about hypertension and all these things. But the first thing that you need to do if you want to find out whether or not you're healthy is to find out your body composition. And there are devices like the Galaxy Watch or other devices out there. If you want to get a more accurate description, you can go for a DEXA scan or these things, the body composition scanners in the gyms. They're also,
True, yes.
They also
That's
have
the
these
one
things.
that I told you about, by the way.
Yeah, but
the one where you step in and you just grab it by the handles. Yes.
I forgot the name for that.
I thought that was the DEXA scan.
No, that DEXA scan is different than that. I forgot the name. I think InBody or something like that. I forgot the name.
Okay.
You can do that too to find out your body composition percentages. So that's the first thing that you need to do, which is to find out your body composition and work from there. If your fat percentage is more than the normal, the allowed the limit, try to reduce your fat. Find out how much your fat percentage is. Find out how much your BMI is. Now we're going to talk about. Let's move on to skeletal muscle. Now, you're the fitness expert here. What can you tell us about muscle in general? What is muscle made of, actually?
Muscles are made out of water.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly out of water, yeah.
That's
so
true.
it's extremely important because it is responsible for the body movements. So if you don't have muscles properly, you cannot. It cannot hold up the body. Your body posture upright. So it's really important to have it.
Yes.
Also in terms of strength, carrying, moving, going up, going down. So if you don't have like muscles, basically movement becomes extremely hard and difficult for you to do.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why it is very important to develop muscles, not only just to be thin or to look,
it's not just about look at that, man. Yeah, it's
time to flex.
It's not just about flexing, guys. Muscles are extremely important for the body. As a matter of fact, I heard once somebody saying, an expert, he was talking about the importance of building muscle.
Yeah.
And if you don't work out, if you're a man, for example, and you're not lifting weights at all, that's going to accelerate aging like anything. One of the ways to slow down aging is to lift weights.
Exactly.
Because testosterone, by the way, which is the most important, let's say, hormone for a man, if you don't have enough testosterone, we have to talk about testosterone.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough testosterone as a man, a lot of your body functions will be affected.
It boosts the testosterone hormone to another level.
Of course, it boosts your testosterone. It also it extends your lifespan.
Exactly.
If you work out, it has a lot of health benefits. Working out has a lot of health benefits. We're also going to talk about longevity.
Plus, also, it reduces the aging factor, by the way.
That's what we were talking about, longevity. We need to have a separate episode on longevity because these things. Each of these topics needs a separate episode.
Yes.
David Sinclair, the professor at Harvard, he's one of the most renowned world scientists when it comes to longevity, and he talks about that. We have to talk about that at some point. But we're going to talk about longevity in a bit. Let's first finish the health metrics, then we're going to move on to the diseases and the things that we have to look out for, and then we're going to talk about longevity. We don't have time to talk about everything in detail. So let's finish the body composition.
We're going to have different episodes because in every single episode we're going to talk about a subject. So to just try to compress the whole thing is going to be extremely difficult for us. And we're going to have it in different episodes.
And health is a broad term, by the way. The term health is a broad term. It encompasses.
If we want to talk about nutrition, that by itself is a separate topic.
It's a huge topic. Now, health encompasses different aspects. There are a multitude of factors when it comes to health. It's not just physical health. You have physical, biochemical. You've got mental.
Yeah.
You've got all of these things.
That is one of the most important things.
Yes.
One of the most important factors.
Of course, mental and stress and all that.
Because it's all about stress and psychological also. Health.
So you've got several factors now. You've got mental, you've got physical, of course. Everything now we're talking about is physical health. Then you've got genetic as well, genetic health. Now, disease or illness happens when you have an imbalance among any of these systems.
Exactly.
So if you have an imbalance, you have some sort of disease. And disease happens when one of the organs in the body does not function as intended. Maybe its functionality is reduced, or somehow it's inactive. So that's what happens when you're diseased. Okay, now let's talk about body water.
Okay.
So if you measure your body composition, you should also measure your body water. Of course, you're mostly made up of water, 70% water, right? BIA works through sending electrical signals like this watch. It sends electrical signals all through the body and through an algorithm that estimates how much each of these things are. So if you have fat tends to resist electrical signals. It measures water as well, along with fat. Fat resists the electrical current. And when it resists the current, the watch knows that this is fat.
Oh,
Muscle,
okay.
by the way, has a lot of water. So if it does not resist the electrical current, that means you have more muscle. You have more water.
This is the reason why it is very crucial and important for
Yes.
like bodybuilders, like
Yeah.
any sports. If you want to like develop muscles and to have muscle growth, is that you need to have a good water intake. If
Yeah.
you don't drink plenty of water, then your muscles won't grow.
Absolutely. And
Especially for the bloodstream also to flow.
water is extremely important.
Yes.
I can't stress this enough. Everybody needs to drink. Well, there's not exactly a certain amount. People say 8 glasses of water, but that was based on a previous study. It's
It
not
varies.
necessarily.
It varies.
it's
I can
not
never go with
necessar-
8 glasses of water.
Yeah, it's not necessarily 8 glasses of water. You know how you can tell?
Especially if you're like athletic.
Yeah.
Like I train 6 days per week, so if I'm just gonna have 8 glasses of water per day, is not enough. I have even more, to be honest.
Even more. So the point is, the way to find out if you are drinking sufficient amounts of water is to look at your urine. If your urine is very dark,
then this means that yes.
that means you're dehydrated.
Yes,
You need
exactly.
to hydrate yourself. If your urine is almost transparent, you can read through it. That means you are hydrated
Yes.
enough. That
It
means
has
you're
to be, like,
drinking-
transparent.
You're drinking enough water, and water is extremely important. You have to drink a lot of water. Let's just say enough water every single
yes.
day.
And the thing is, guys, it's just for
I
you
want
to
to drink
know.
some water now.
Just for you to know is that just because we're speaking about muscles and how to grow muscles, that doesn't mean that, okay, I have to drink water just because of this. It's for everything, for
Absolutely.
your entire body functions.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why it is extremely crucial for you to have a proper water intake daily.
So, for example, here for me, Samsung is telling me that for my age, weight, sex, and all these things, I have to have anywhere between 40.5
Now
kilograms.
you got me thirsty.
Yeah. I have to have anywhere between 40.5 kilograms of water to 44.3 kilograms of water. And so far, I'm doing well. I'm drinking enough water. So it even gives you an estimation of how much you have to have, how much body water you have to have in your body. The final thing we're going to talk about is basal metabolic rate, which is
That's the one, yes.
which is BMR. Basal metabolic rate is the amount of energy the body needs at rest.
It came at the end of the watch when I was like reading the metrics.
Exactly. It's actually all the way here in the end. So the amount of energy that your body uses while at rest, that's your basal metabolic rate. It's necessary for things like breathing, digestive functions, all of these things, heart rate, heart beating. So your body requires that minimum amount of calories, for example, per day for your body to function.
So it measures it when your body is in a resting position.
The watch gives you an estimation of how much your BMR should be. So, for example, let me look at I'm going to put this on the screen. My basal metabolic rate, my BMR, is currently 1,679 calories
Okay.
per day. So that means for me, as a man who's 36 years old, I need 1,679 calories per day just to survive. Do you understand?
In order for your body functions, for your body to operate properly.
Yeah. And by the way, something important about the basal metabolic rate is the basal metabolic rate is used to also understand if it's used to calculate how many calories you need, whether you want to lose weight, you gain weight, and all of these things. Because in addition to your BMR, you have your calories for your activities. So,
True.
for example, for me, I have 1,679 calories in estimation of my BMR. I need an extra percentage or X number for my calories, for my daily intake of calories. So that helps you understand. It helps you build your plan. It helps you estimate your caloric intake, how many calories I have to consume per day. You need to understand what is your basal metabolic rate. Once you understand your basal metabolic rate, you can add, for example, X amount of calories for this, and that activities.
Yes.
And if you want to lose weight, you
then
can also...
you have to be on like caloric deficit.
Yes, of course. And regarding losing weight in general, it's very simple. Guys, don't look at all of these crazy... diet fads or scams out there, the latest diet pill, the latest God knows what. It's very simple. The amount of calories you consume per day, if you burn more than you consume, you lose weight. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's a very simple.
If you
system.
consume more than you burn, you gain weight.
Yeah.
Sometimes this simple formula is not understood by many people. They just can't understand how simple this thing is. And they still think there's a magic pill out there that enables them to lose weight. But it's as simple as that. Of course, it's not exactly as simple as that. You also have to factor in other things. Like you have to factor in things like, your muscle and all the muscle mass and all these things. Of course, your fat percentage, all of these things as well.
Especially that this industry goes after women. And
exactly.
Yeah, and they want the magic pill immediately. To be honest, even when I teach them with my clients,
right?
They always bring it up. They always come up with questions like, "Is there like a secret way, or like for me to either to eat or like to take, or for me to train to just lose weight immediately?" So that's the reason why with these pills or whatever, creams even. It comes to creams, even like lotions and stuff. To say that, okay, if you just apply this, you will lose weight immediately. And the thing is, people believe it. So that's the reason why they keep on buying it.
Absolutely, yeah. And now let's talk about the next important health metric, Nart, which is one of the most important health metrics. And I can guarantee you that a lot of you guys out there don't know about this health metric.
Is it the VO2 Max?
Exactly.
I got you, man.
What do you think, Nart? Tell us more about VO2 Max. What is it?
It is the maximum amount of oxygen intake that you take when you breathe. And also to measure it takes some time with the watch. It goes for example, like 10 minutes of walking or exercise.
Yeah.
So it measures the whole thing, and then it tells you how much of VO2 max you have in your body.
It's not easy to measure, by the way. You can't directly measure VO2 max. It needs, if you're using a fitness tracker, by the way, it takes a bit of time to measure. You have to engage in a vigorous fitness activity.
And this is especially done with athletes to measure the VO2 max in them so that they check out their performance.
Yeah.
Especially with runners, joggers, it's like this.
But here's the thing, Nart. The reason why we're mentioning VO2 max is not just because this thing is related to athletes or cardio fitness. VO2 max is extremely important. It's actually one of the predictors of health. If you have poor VO2 max,
and also how healthy your lungs are.
Exactly.
Yes.
So all of these things are interlinked. They're connected to each other.
Of course.
Your VO2 max is a big indication of health. Of course, it can't be, you can't take it alone, say, oh, my VO2 max is amazing, that means I'm a healthy person. No, you have to take that in combination with the other things. But you have to also measure your VO2 max. If you have a poor VO2 max, well, that means you have to work on that, because that is one of the most important predictors of health and longevity. People who have high VO2 max numbers, that mean they're doing really well when it comes to their health.
Exactly. Yeah.
Most probably are doing well. So that's also important to note. Now let's move on to things like diseases and what to keep an eye out for. Let's talk about, first of all, hypertension.
Okay.
Go ahead, Nart. What do you think about hypertension?
Well, hypertension, not only hypertension, but one of these two factors that are like really extremely bad, and we always check it also, even at my workplace in the hospital, is the blood pressure and your diabetic level.
Absolutely.
The RBS.
Yes.
So it's like this. This is like extremely important. So we check out the vital signs, and the normal blood pressure rate is 120/80.
Yes.
And also for the RBS level, you have anything after 200 is considered your diabetic.
You're talking about blood sugar.
Blood sugar, yes.
Nart, did you know, I don't know if you know this, but did you know that the American Heart Association changed the guidelines for blood pressure in 2018? Because before it wasn't 120 systolic over diastolic.
Okay.
It was 130. What is considered above 130 would be elevated blood pressure. But now
they lowered it to 120.
Yeah, it's been like 5 years now.
Yes.
So guys, be careful. A lot of doctors still out there, they're still, by the way, they're slowly starting to shift. They're following now the new guidelines, but some doctors still follow the old guidelines. So the American guidelines, it depends on where you are. So for the American guidelines, it says that it's 120/80.
80, yeah.
Always measure your blood pressure. Make sure that your blood pressure is normal. When I say always, not as every day, but at least measure it every once in a while, to see what your blood pressure is. If you have consistent elevated blood pressure, you have to check that out. and you also have to change your diet and your lifestyle.
Elevated blood pressure is between 120 and 129. High blood pressure, hypertension stage 1 is between 130 and 139. High blood pressure, hypertension stage 2 is 140 or higher, and hypertensive crisis is anything above 180.
When it comes to diastolic blood pressure, anything above 80, even if it's 85, for example, that's considered hypertension,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Actually, the diastolic is the
The
fact
lower
that-
number.
Yeah, is the lower number that
the lower
Yeah,
number is the
the
diastolic.
systolic is the-
Systolic is the upper number. Diastolic is the lower number. By the way,
Yes.
this watch can measure your blood pressure
and we
as well.
care about the diastolic rate more than the systolic rate.
They're both important,
Yes.
but yeah, you have to look at both. So check out your blood pressure. Blood pressure is extremely important. It's called hypertension, and there's a reason why they call it the silent killer,
Exactly.
because it doesn't have symptoms. You may have blood pressure and you don't even know it.
True. Yes, it doesn't have symptoms, and you won't even know about it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yes.
And the major problem is blood pressure can cause heart disease.
Exactly.
If you have consistent
even people
blood
with
pressure.
even people with blood sugar levels that are high, who are like diabetic,
Of course, all of these things are
they won't even
interlinked.
know.
Yeah,
They just check like the machine, with the machine. Oh, it's really high. So
exactly.
and he doesn't know about it, or he's just like careless. He doesn't care about taking the medication and stuff.
Right. Which is why you should also check the next thing, which is blood glucose levels. You have to check your sugar. So if your fasting sugar is below 100, that is normal. If your blood sugar is above 200 after eating,
Then you're diabetic.
then you're definitely diabetic.
Yes.
And you have to also measure your sugar levels. By the way, in America, I believe it was the CDC or Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
I can't remember. They recommend testing your blood sugar. If you're above 35, test your blood sugar. And even if it's normal, test it at least once every 3 years. To find out if you have any diabetes. And we're not going to talk about all these details, but there's diabetes type 1, there's diabetes type 2. Diabetes type 1 means that your pancreas does not create insulin at all. So that ability has malfunctioned. Type 2 diabetes means that your pancreas is not creating enough insulin, or that your body is not effectively using the insulin. So most people, the majority of people, have type 2 diabetes. So you have to find out, guys, if you have diabetes or not. Make sure that you measure your blood sugar as well. And the most important thing, Nart, if you want to talk about disease, I believe the most important thing to talk about is cardiovascular health. Because the number one killer...
Oh yeah, by the way, before you mention that thing,
Yeah.
that topic about the cardiovascular health,
Yeah.
you told me that you're going to mention something about an analogy, something that you will show me. And
That's for sleep.
okay.
That's for another episode, guys.
okay,
We're going to
okay,
talk about
okay.
sleep. Which we haven't even spoken about sleep.
Sure.
But the number one killer in the world right now is heart attacks and things like that. So cardiovascular
So this is for the
disease.
sleep. Okay. So this is coming.
The next episode.
Yeah, in the upcoming episode, he's going to show us about it.
Yes. So the thing is, guys, you also have to take care of your heart. Your heart is your body's engine. If you have a car and anything happens to your car's engine, what would happen to the car?
It's gonna, stop functioning well.
The car will completely
break
stop,
down.
will come
Yeah.
to a halt.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if your lights go out in the car, what's going to happen? Can the car still go on?
Of course.
It can still go on.
Yes, but you
right?
can't see, but it can still go on.
It can still go on. If any of the other functions, it depends, of course, but most of the other functions, many of these functions, if they go out, the car can still move.
True.
The primary function of a car is to travel, to move. But if the engine stops, your car dies.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
The same thing with your heart. Your heart is your body's engine. Your body is your car. You have to take care of your heart, and you have to understand what are the types of heart disease out there. There are different types of heart disease. Of course, there are also strokes. Strokes are for the brain. There's heart attacks. A heart attack is a blockage in one of the heart arteries, and it happens because of accumulation of cholesterol.
We're going to talk about the cardiovascular system
Yeah.
in further episodes.
Yeah.
But for now, we need to sum up the whole thing about the metric system. We gave you guys an eye-opening discussion about the metric system and how to measure it, especially with the watch. Gadgets like the Samsung.
An example.
Yeah, an example. So we just want to
but
sum up.
to wrap up
The whole thing, yes.
To wrap up the cardiovascular thing, it's one of the most important health metrics that you also have to take care of. You have to make sure that you don't have any problems with your heart. If you experience any palpitations, if you're having problems with breathing, anything like that, you have to immediately get your heart checked.
Yeah, medical intervention.
You have to get your heart checked. Of course, we're not going to get into all the details, but there are different tests that you can do. You have to make sure that you lower your risk of heart attacks, because heart attacks are the number one reason that people die today, and they're caused because of two reasons. Heart attacks are caused because of two reasons. Number one is the cholesterol buildup in one of the arteries that cause a blockage of blood flow, and that causes a heart attack.
Obesity too?
No, that's one of the reasons. Number two is when you have plaque deposited on the arteries. Let's say you're healthy, you don't even have any problems. That's the dangerous type. The first type, you have signs. You have signs of the heart attack. You might be out of breath. You might have palpitations. You might be nauseous. You might be vomiting. All of these are signs of heart attacks. Angina. Angina usually happens when somebody exercises. They have
suddenly
chest
they
pain.
feel like heavy chest pain.
They have chest pain, and when they stop that workout or that exercise, they start feeling better. That means they have a problem, which is why we haven't even talked about exercise. Exercise is one of the most important things for health, guys. You have to exercise. Exercise can lead you to discover if you have a health problem. If you exercise and you have a heart problem, you will know, because exercise will tell you if there's something wrong with your heart. The more you move, the more active you are. If you're feeling out of breath, or if you any of these symptoms, that means something might be wrong. So get yourself checked out. Make sure your heart is healthy. The next reason, the other reason for heart attacks is when you have plaque buildup. You don't have any problems. You don't have any issues. No chest pain. Nothing. You're fine. The problem is when that plaque ruptures. This is the problem, the biggest problem. You hear about people that just they drop down and they die.
Just collapse.
They drop dead.
They
collapse. They had a heart attack. They had no warning signs. Why? What happened was they had plaque in one of their arteries. That, by the way, plaque buildup starts from when you were a baby. So that ruptures, and when it ruptures, the body thinks that this is something wrong happened, and we have to now do the blood clotting. So the body instantly tries to do the blood clotting thing, and that blood clotting blocks your artery. You know, for example, when you have a wound, the body starts clotting up the wound, right?
To stop it from bleeding.
So when you have something that ruptures in your arteries, that's the plaque, suddenly ruptured, and the reason it ruptures, we're also going to talk about this, guys. Pay attention. This is very important. The reason it ruptures is because of inflammation. Inflammation is your number one enemy when it comes to health. And there are various causes for inflammation. Number one of the causes, smoking. Smoking is extremely important, guys. I haven't seen a single doctor that hasn't asked the question, do you smoke? And my friend who's a doctor told me, he shocked me. This might sound like a cliche, but a lot of people still don't understand how dangerous smoking is. Smoking is extremely dangerous in all aspects of health, especially your cardiovascular health. Smoking can cause heart attacks, by the way. We haven't even talked about exercise. So guys, exercise is extremely important for health. Diet is extremely important for health. You have to have a healthy diet. There are different types of diets, but you have to eat vegetables, fruits, lean protein, whole grains. You haven't talked about exercise. What do you think? Why is exercise extremely important for health?
It's for everything, man. It's not only because I'm exercising to look good and blah, blah. It's a lifestyle, obviously. And one of the most important things about exercise is to reduce your stress level down.
Exactly.
So that's like the most important thing.
And not just that, there's something very important, Art. We just talked about inflammation. Exercise is one of the best ways to reduce your inflammation. Exercise is a natural anti-inflammatory thing you can do. So instead of taking drugs, you can do exercise to reduce your inflammation.
And this is a natural factor too.
Exactly.
You don't need something to enhance it.
Exercise is extremely important. And we haven't even talked about one of the most important aspects of health. My God, this topic is huge, man. But we decided to dedicate
nutrition.
Not even nutrition, but we just talked briefly about nutrition. Nutrition is very important, guys. Just stay away from sugar. Try to minimize your sugar intake as much as possible. Eat a lot of vegetables as much as possible. Have a good intake of fruits. Of course, I can't summarize all of this.
Too.
Yes, have good fiber in your diet and all of these things. But one of the most important aspects of health that is overlooked by many people, which we're going to talk about, is sleep. We have dedicated an entire episode, guys, on sleep because you'll find out why. It's the most important health aspect of all.
It is.
Sleep is the most important health aspect. So I guess that's about it for today's episode. Unfortunately, this subject is huge. We can't cover everything.
Sure.
But to wrap things up, guys, find out your body composition. Find out all these things that we talked about, your fat percentage, your BMI, your weight, all of these things, your skeletal muscle, blah, 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 basal metabolic rate. Find out these things. There are devices that can help you to find out these things. Then find out if you have any of these important diseases like hypertension and sugar, and measure them consistently every now and then, because these two are evil and they can cause so many problems, which is why when you go to the hospital, the first thing they do to measure your vitals, they measure your blood pressure. We haven't even talked about oxygen saturation, which is another topic, but they measure your oxygen saturation, they measure your blood pressure, and they measure your weight. So these things are important to know. And we talked about cardiovascular health. Cardiovascular health is very important. So
True.
If you have any symptoms at all, get yourself checked out. Regardless, every now and then, get yourself checked out. Do something called the lipid
annual
profile.
checkups, to be precise.
We haven't even talked about lipid profile, which has LDL, HDL. LDL is bad for you. HDL is good for you. Look at these levels. Make sure these levels are okay. LDL levels should be below 100. HDL levels should be above 40. Make sure you measure you have your lipid profile measured, your triglycerides. Find out if you have any problem with cholesterol. Before you take any statins, though, statins are cholesterol lowering drugs, make sure you discuss it with your doctor and make sure that this is the only way forward, because a lot of times you don't need statins.
Yes.
So look at your cardiovascular health as well. Exercise is extremely important. Try to exercise at least every day. The World Health Organization says you need to exercise
3 to 4 times per week.
The thing is, you have to try to include, remember in our high intensity interval training, HIIT, try to include that as well. We have to have another episode on this. And finally, sleep well. We have an episode on sleep. Sleep between 7 to 9 hours, guys. It's extremely important. Sleep is the most important health factor of all, by the way.
Okay, to our beautiful audience, please stay tuned for further episodes on health. We're going to divide it and talk about sleep in the next episode.
Nart, we haven't even talked about stress. Lower your stress levels,
definitely,
guys.
Yeah. No, I mentioned about stress.
Yeah.
I mentioned it before.
Yeah, but there's also something that we haven't talked about, which is
about your stress and the psychological health. I mentioned
the way you think about stress matters. I'm going to put a link in the description as well for Dr. Kelly McGonigal's TED Talk, which is the way you think about stress matters. If you think that stress is going to kill you, it will. And there's evidence, there's the science, the new science talks about that. What is in your mind is much more important. If you think that stress is going to kill you, it will. If you think that stress is not going to kill you, it won't. Check out the science. Regardless, try to reduce your stress levels. Try doing things like yoga, meditation, deep breathing, and all these things, Have a simple life. Clear your mind. Follow the things that we just talked about, guys. And inshallah, you're going to have a great, healthy life.
Exactly. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, guys. Awesome. Thank you for watching.